You are sitting alone in a small, quiet room, a single oil lamp flickering on the table beside you, its light barely reaching the corners where the shadows gather thick and undisturbed. It is very late. The city outside your window has finally gone quiet, the last cartwheels long since faded into silence, the last drunken songs from a nearby tavern finally hushed. You are a clerk, employed by a minor official in the imperial archives, and tonight, for reasons you cannot quite explain even to yourself, you have stayed behind long after everyone else has gone home. In front of you lies a small stack of documents you were never meant to read carefully. Old records, faded and brittle, tucked into a box marked simply for disposal. You were supposed to sort them, discard what was no longer needed, and go home hours ago. Instead, you find yourself turning each page slowly, drawn in by fragments of stories that never made it into the official histories you grew up, hearing recited in the forum, the ones carved in marble and celebrated in public speeches. You trace a finger along a line of faded ink, a brief note referencing a payment made to a woman whose occupation is never directly named, only hinted at through careful, evasive language. You turn another page and find a report, half burned at the edges, describing a night watchman's account of strange lights seen beneath the city in tunnels that officially do not exist. You sit back for a moment, rubbing your tired eyes, wondering how many other such fragments have simply been swept away over the centuries, discarded as clutter by clerks just like you, too tired or too incurious to notice what they were truly holding in their hands. Rome, you have come to understand through years of quiet archival work, is not simply the city celebrated in public monuments and official proclamations. It is also a city of private arrangements, hidden rooms, whispered warnings, and carefully buried truths. A second Rome existing just beneath the surface of the one everyone knows, visible only to those patient or curious enough to look for it. You think, turning another brittle page, about how much of what you have been taught about this city rests on stories carefully shaped by those with the power to shape them. Victorious generals recording their own triumphs, emperors commissioning historians to write flattering accounts of their reigns, families quietly erasing inconvenient chapters from their own histories. The official Rome is a city of order, law, and glory. But you begin to suspect, sitting here in this small circle of lamplight, that a very different city has always existed alongside it, one built from secrets rather than marble. You pull your cloak tighter against the night's growing chill and continue reading, unable to stop yourself now. A record of a senator's sudden, unexplained death, followed immediately by an equally unexplained promotion for his chief rival. A brief mention of a religious ritual performed only once every century, its exact details deliberately omitted from the official record. A cryptic reference to something called simply the sealed room, located somewhere within the palace complex, its purpose and contents never specified in any document you can find. You realize, as the night deepens further around you, that you have stumbled onto something larger than you initially understood. Not simply forgotten paperwork, but fragments of an entire hidden history that ran alongside Rome's public story for centuries, touching everything from religious ritual to political assassination, from underground cults to the private fears of emperors who, despite commanding the known world, still lay awake at night worrying about poison in their wine or knives in the dark. You think about your own small, ordinary life, your modest position within this vast administrative machine, and you feel a strange thrill at the thought that you might be among the very few people in generations to glimpse these particular fragments of buried truth. Most who came before you either never noticed these documents at all, or noticed and chose, wisely perhaps, to look away. You do not choose to look away tonight. You gather the most intriguing documents carefully, setting aside the ones you feel comfortable simply discarding as instructed, and you begin, in the quiet hours before dawn, to piece together what you can of this hidden Rome. The Rome of secret flames tended by sworn virgins, of poison recipes passed quietly between rival households, of underground chambers where forbidden gods were worshipped by. Lamplight of spies who moved through the empire's furthest provinces, reporting back to men whose names never appeared in any official record. You do not know yet how deep this hidden history runs, how many centuries of careful concealment you are about to uncover, or how much of what you learn tonight will unsettle the comfortable assumptions you have carried your entire life about the city you call home. You know, only that the lamp beside you still has oil enough to burn a while longer, and that you are not yet ready to close these pages and return to your ordinary, undisturbed sleep. Let your own breathing slow now, matching the quiet, careful pace of this uncovering. Whatever secrets roam buried, however deeply, they have waited patiently in the dark for a very long time. They can wait a little longer still, unfolding gently now, one careful page at a time, as you drift toward your own peaceful rest. 2. The city beneath the city. You return the following evening to the same quiet room, the same flickering lamp, unable to stay away from the documents that kept you awake through much of the previous night. Tonight, you have brought with you a second lamp, determined to see more clearly into the corners this hidden history keeps leading you toward. You begin with a set of engineering records, official on their surface, detailing the construction of sewers, aqueduct channels, and storage cellars beneath various districts of the city. At first, these documents seem mundane, exactly the sort of practical infrastructure paperwork you would expect to find discarded without concern. But as you read further, you notice something curious. Certain passages and chambers described in these records do not appear on any official map you have ever seen, their existence acknowledged only in these obscure engineering notes, never in the public surveys used by ordinary citizens or merchants. You think about the Rome you walk through every day, its streets and buildings so familiar you rarely consider what lies beneath your own feet. You have always known, in some abstract way, that tunnels and channels run beneath the city. Every Roman child learned something of the great sewers that keep the streets above from flooding. But these records suggest something more extensive, more deliberately hidden than simple drainage infrastructure. You find a reference to a network of passages connecting several prominent buildings near the Forum. Constructed, the brief note explains, for matters requiring discretion. You sit with this phrase for a long moment, turning it over in your mind. Discretion regarding what, exactly? You imagine senators moving unseen between meetings, avoiding the crowds and rumors that would inevitably follow any publicly observed gathering. You imagine messages passed quietly through underground corridors, urgent information reaching the right hands without ever risking the wrong eyes. You continue reading, finding additional references to storage chambers built beneath certain wealthy households, their contents never specified. Their existence known only to the family and a small number of trusted workers sworn, according to one brief note, to lifelong silence regarding what they had helped construct. You wonder what such chambers might have held. Hidden wealth, certainly, in a city where sudden political reversals could turn even the most powerful family into fugitives overnight, desperate for resources to fund an escape or a bribe. But perhaps other things as well. Documents too dangerous to keep in visible archives. Evidence of transactions better left unrecorded in any official ledger. You find yourself thinking about the great public monuments you pass every day. The temples, the forums, the triumphal arches, and how completely they dominate any visitor's first impression of this city. Rome presents itself, always, as a city of visible achievement, its power and order proclaimed openly in marble and inscription. And yet here, in these quiet, unglamorous engineering records, you glimpse a very different Roman impulse. The desire to build things meant never to be seen at all, spaces existing specifically outside the reach of public knowledge and public accountability. You read, with particular fascination, a brief account describing an incident many decades earlier when workers repairing a section of sewer beneath a prominent district accidentally broke through into an unmapped chamber, its contents and purpose entirely unknown to the surprised laborers who first entered it. The record notes only that the chamber was quickly resealed on the orders of a senior official, its contents never publicly disclosed. The workers themselves reportedly compensated generously for their continued silence on the matter. You lean back in your chair, staring up at the low, shadowed ceiling of your own small room, thinking about how many similar chambers might still exist beneath the city at this very moment, sealed away and forgotten by everyone except the small handful of officials who once knew their purpose, their knowledge itself now perhaps lost entirely to the passage of time and the deaths of those who once held it. You think about the particular Roman genius for infrastructure, the aqueducts and roads and sewers that so many admire as evidence of remarkable civic achievement, and you begin to understand, reading these hidden records, that this same genius for building serves purposes beyond simple public utility. The same skill that channels water efficiently through the city can also, it seems, channel secrets, moving them quietly beneath the visible surface of Roman life, protected from the scrutiny that governs everything happening in the open air above. You gather these particular documents carefully, setting them aside for further study, and you find yourself wondering, as the night grows later still, whether any of these hidden passages and chambers might still be accessible, whether some forgotten door in some ordinary-looking building might still lead down into spaces that generations of ordinary Romans walked directly above without ever suspecting what lay beneath their feet. Let this quiet, hidden underground world settle into your thoughts now, as the sealed chambers beneath the city rest silently in their permanent darkness, their secrets undisturbed for now, waiting patiently, as they have for so many centuries, for whoever might next stumble upon their carefully concealed thresholds. 3. The secret of the Vestal flame. The following evening, you turn your attention to a different set of documents entirely. Records connected to the Vestal Virgins, the small, carefully selected group of women entrusted with tending Rome's sacred hearth fire, a flame that, according to deeply held Roman belief, must never be allowed to go out, its continued burning somehow bound up with the continued safety and prosperity of the entire city. You have always known the basic public facts about the Vestals, chosen young, from respected families, sworn to 30 years of chastity and service, honored publicly with privileges available to almost no other women in Roman society, yet also bound by punishments of extraordinary severity should they ever break their sacred vows. But these documents, tucked away in a section of the archive rarely consulted, hint at a far more complicated reality behind this carefully maintained public image. You find a series of private correspondence between temple officials, discussing, in careful, guarded language, matters that never appeared in any public religious record. One letter references a Vestal who fell seriously ill, and the extraordinary secrecy surrounding her treatment, physicians sworn to silence, her identity carefully concealed from public knowledge until her eventual, quiet recovery. You wonder why such secrecy would be necessary for something as ordinary as illness, until you read further and begin to understand the deeper anxiety underlying it. Any hint of impropriety, any rumor suggesting a Vestal had broken her sacred vow of chastity, could trigger a religious and political crisis extending far beyond the individual woman herself, since Romans widely believed that any such violation directly endangered the city's safety and divine favor. You read, with growing unease, records describing the fate of Vestals accused, rightly or wrongly, of breaking their vows across various periods of Roman history. Accusations that could arise from political rivalry as easily as genuine wrongdoing, given how enormously consequential such charges proved for anyone the priestesses might be connected to through family or political alliance. You find a particularly troubling account describing the traditional punishment for a Vestal found guilty of such violation. Sealed alive within an underground chamber, provided with only minimal food and water, left to die slowly in darkness, since Roman religious law forbade the direct execution of a Vestal by conventional means, considering her sacred status too significant for ordinary punishment. yet demanding punishment nonetheless for such a serious violation. You sit with this information for a long, uncomfortable moment, thinking about the particular cruelty embedded within this careful religious and legal distinction. A punishment designed specifically to avoid the appearance of direct violence against a sacred person, while still ensuring death through prolonged suffering and abandonment. You wonder how many such chambers might exist somewhere beneath or near the city, their exact locations perhaps deliberately obscured or forgotten, holding within their sealed darkness the final, silent testimony of women whose actual guilt or innocence no living person can any longer determine with certainty. You continue reading, finding records, suggesting that accusations against Vestals sometimes served clearly political purposes, used by ambitious men to weaken rival families connected to a particular priestess, or to distract public attention from other political crises through the dramatic spectacle such accusations inevitably created. One particular account describes a period of genuine political crisis, coinciding suspiciously with multiple simultaneous accusations against several Vestals at once, the timing suggesting, at least to whoever originally recorded this observation, a deliberate political strategy rather than any genuine coincidence of wrongdoing. You think about the extraordinary power these women held within Roman religious and civic life, entrusted with duties considered essential to the entire city's safety and prosperity, and yet simultaneously vulnerable to political manipulation and severe punishment based on accusations that might have little connection to any actual violation of their sacred vows. You begin to understand, reading these careful, guarded records, that the Vestals occupied an unusually precarious position within Roman society, publicly honored above nearly all other women, yet privately vulnerable in ways that few Romans openly acknowledged or discussed. You find, too, brief references to certain secret rituals performed exclusively by the Vestals, their exact content deliberately never recorded, even in these otherwise detailed private correspondences, described only as matters known to the priestesses alone, their content considered too sacred or perhaps too dangerous for even careful written documentation. You wonder what specific knowledge or ritual practice might have been considered so significant that even Rome's careful record-keeping tradition made a deliberate exception, preferring oral transmission between generations of priestesses over any permanent written account. You gather these documents carefully as the night grows late, thinking about the sacred flame itself, still burning, as far as you know, in its temple even now, as you sit here reading by lamplight, tended faithfully by whichever priestesses currently hold this ancient, demanding responsibility. You wonder whether they, too, carry private knowledge of secrets never meant to reach documents like the ones now spread across your table. Knowledge passed carefully between generations of women bound by vows and responsibilities that the ordinary Roman citizen, celebrating their public honors in the Forum, never fully comprehends. Let this quiet, solemn reflection on hidden sacrifice and sacred secrecy settle over you now, as the eternal flame continues its silent burning somewhere in the darkened city beyond your window, tended faithfully through the night by women whose true knowledge and true burdens remain, even now, carefully guarded from full public understanding. 4. Whispers in the Senate. You arrive again the following evening, drawn now by a particular curiosity toward the private side of Roman politics. The whispered negotiations, hidden alliances, and careful manipulations that you have begun to suspect mattered every bit as much to the empire's actual functioning as the formal debates and votes recorded in official Senate proceedings. You find, tucked within a bundle of miscellaneous correspondence never properly cataloged, a series of private letters exchanged between two senators whose public relationship, according to every official record you have previously encountered, appeared entirely cordial and professionally respectful. These private letters reveal something considerably more complicated. Careful negotiations regarding votes to be exchanged, favors to be called in one particularly striking passage, an explicit discussion regarding how best to publicly frame a policy disagreement in a way that would obscure the actual personal rivalry driving their opposing positions. You think about the formal Senate debates you have occasionally observed from a respectful distance during your archival work, the careful, dignified oratory, the appeals to tradition and public good that structure every visible political argument. These private letters suggest an entirely different reality operating alongside this formal public performance. A reality of personal ambition, calculated alliance, and strategic manipulation that rarely, if ever, appears explicitly within the official record. You find, too, records of a particular practice that troubles you considerably as you read through the careful, coded language used to describe it. The systematic use of informants embedded within senatorial households, servants and freedmen paid quietly to report private conversations back to interested parties, allowing certain well-connected senators to possess detailed knowledge of their rivals. Private opinions and strategies long before any such information would naturally become public. You read one particular account describing how a prominent senator, suspected of harboring genuine reservations about a major policy the current administration wished to pursue, found his private household servant unexpectedly offered a significant sum of money by an unknown intermediary in exchange for detailed reports regarding his employer's private conversations and correspondence. The record does not clearly indicate whether this particular servant accepted the arrangement, but the very existence of such an offer, carefully documented in what appears to be an internal memo regarding information gathering expenses, suggests this practice was neither unusual nor considered particularly scandalous among those who employed it. You think, reading this, about how differently this hidden Rome operates compared to the public image of dignified senatorial debate and principled political disagreement. You begin to understand that genuine political power in Rome depended heavily on this kind of careful, hidden information gathering, allowing well-resourced senators to anticipate their rivals' moves, identify vulnerabilities, and negotiate advantageous arrangements long before any formal public debate ever began. You find, too, records hinting at a particular network of professional negotiators, men who moved between different senatorial households, carrying carefully coded messages and proposals too sensitive to commit to normal written correspondence. Their services employed by various political factions seeking to arrange alliances or resolve disputes without leaving any explicit written evidence that might later prove politically damaging if discovered. You read a fragment of a coded message, its meaning only partially explained in an accompanying note, apparently written by whoever eventually deciphered it for the archive, describing an arrangement regarding an upcoming vote, using careful metaphorical language about agricultural matters that, according to the decoding note, actually referred to entirely different political and financial arrangements. You marvel at the careful sophistication such coded communication required, and you wonder how many other documents throughout Roman history might contain similarly disguised meanings, hidden behind innocent-seeming language that only carefully informed readers could properly interpret. You think, too, about the particular vulnerability such hidden political dealings created for anyone caught up in Rome's periodic political crises, when accusations of conspiracy or disloyalty could suddenly transform previously private, carefully concealed arrangements into evidence of genuine treason, exposing individuals to punishments far more severe than anything they might have faced had their actual, more mundane political maneuvering simply remained hidden as originally intended. You gather these particular documents thoughtfully, understanding now, more fully than before, why so much of Rome's actual political history remains genuinely obscure to later observers, hidden behind careful public performances of principled debate that concealed, in reality, an intricate private world of calculated alliance, hidden information networks, and careful negotiations designed specifically, never to leave any explicit trace within the official historical record. Let this careful, quiet reflection on hidden political maneuvering settle over you now, as the great Senate House itself stands dark and silent somewhere across the sleeping city, its marble halls holding within their walls the memory of countless whispered conversations and careful private arrangements that shaped Roman history every bit as significantly as anything ever recorded in its official proceedings. 5. The poisoner's trade. You return to your quiet room the following night with a particular sense of unease, having glimpsed, in your previous evening's reading, brief references to a subject you now find yourself unable to fully set aside. The quiet, carefully hidden trade in poison that seems to have operated throughout Roman history alongside its more visible, celebrated achievements. You begin with a set of legal records documenting several notable poisoning cases across different periods of Roman history, official trial proceedings that, on their surface, appear to represent normal judicial process. But as you read further, you notice recurring patterns that suggest something more organized and widespread than isolated individual crimes. You find reference to a particular period when poisoning cases became so numerous and so troubling to Roman authorities that a formal investigation uncovered what the record describes, with evident official alarm, as an extensive network of women trading in poisons and abortifacients, their clients including wives seeking to eliminate unwanted husbands and heirs, seeking to accelerate inheritances they felt entitled to receive sooner than natural circumstances might otherwise allow. You read, with growing fascination and unease, details regarding the sophisticated knowledge such poisoners apparently possessed, careful understanding of various plant-based toxins, their different effects and timing, their ability to be disguised within food or wine without detection, even knowledge regarding how to create symptoms mimicking natural illness, allowing poisoning deaths to escape suspicion, entirely unless investigators specifically knew to look for particular telltale signs. You find a particularly detailed account describing the investigation and eventual punishment of a substantial group of women identified as participants in this poison trade. The resulting scandal significant enough that it apparently prompted broader Roman anxiety regarding domestic safety, with the record noting increased public concern regarding food and wine preparation within wealthy households. Following this particular revelation, you think about the particular vulnerability this hidden poison trade created within Roman domestic life, especially among wealthy families where significant inheritances and property rights created genuine incentives for eliminating inconvenient family members. You read additional records describing various suspicious deaths among prominent Roman families, official causes typically recorded as sudden illness or natural causes, though private correspondence occasionally hints at less charitable suspicions harbored by surviving family members who found themselves unexpectedly and conveniently benefiting from a relative's untimely passing. You find, too, references to certain individuals who developed particular reputations, whispered about carefully in private correspondence but never explicitly named in any official record, as reliable sources for poison when discreetly approached through the right intermediaries. One letter, written by someone clearly anxious about a political rival, discusses, in carefully evasive language, the possibility of resolving the matter through more permanent means. Language that the accompanying archival note suggests likely refers to arranging a poisoning, though the letter's author was careful never to state this intention explicitly. You think about the particular fear this hidden poison trade must have created among Rome's wealthy and politically prominent families, an underlying anxiety about food and drink that existed alongside all the visible luxury and abundance that characterized privileged Roman life. You read a brief account describing the elaborate precautions certain particularly anxious or politically vulnerable individuals took regarding their meals. Trusted tasters employed specifically to sample food and wine before their employer consumed it. Kitchens guarded carefully against unauthorized access, ingredients sourced only from trusted, verified suppliers. You find, too, evidence suggesting that knowledge of poisons and their antidotes became, for certain individuals, a form of valuable, carefully guarded expertise, with wealthy families sometimes employing physicians specifically valued for their knowledge regarding poison detection and treatment, a specialized medical skill that existed in uncomfortable tension with the broader medical professions, more public, benevolent reputation for healing rather than harm. You reflect, gathering these unsettling documents together, on how thoroughly this hidden poison trade complicates any simple, idealized picture of Roman domestic life. revealing instead a world where genuine affection and loyalty within families existed alongside very real anxieties regarding betrayal, inheritance, and the ever-present possibility that a trusted family member might, given sufficient motive and opportunity, resort to quiet, carefully disguised murder rather than open conflict. Let this uneasy reflection on hidden danger settle now into a more peaceful rest, trusting that whatever fears once kept anxious, Romans carefully testing their food and watching their wine, tonight, in your own quiet room, no such danger exists, only the gentle, safe darkness of your own undisturbed sleep. 6. The hidden cult of the catacombs. The following evening brings you to a different section of the archive entirely, one dealing with religious matters that Roman officials clearly viewed with considerable suspicion and concern. Records documenting various secretive religious groups and practices that operated, often quite deliberately, outside the boundaries of officially sanctioned Roman religious tradition. You find, first, a series of official reports concerning underground meeting spaces discovered beneath various districts of the city, their walls decorated with religious imagery entirely unfamiliar to traditional Roman worship, dedicated to gods and practices that official investigators clearly struggled to fully understand or categorize according to their own religious framework. You read a particularly detailed account describing the discovery of one such underground chamber, its walls covered in carefully painted symbols and figures, evidence suggesting regular gatherings involving shared meals, symbolic rituals, and what the investigating official describes, with evident unease, as practices suggesting secret initiation and hidden hierarchy among participants. You think about the particular anxiety Roman authorities harbored regarding any religious practice they could not easily observe, categorize, and, if necessary, control through official channels. You find records suggesting that Roman officials grew increasingly concerned about such hidden religious gatherings, not primarily due to genuine theological objection, but rather due to deeper political anxiety regarding any organized group whose activities and true loyalties remained largely hidden from official oversight. One official memo explicitly states this concern, noting that any gathering conducted in secret, regardless of its professed religious purpose, creates opportunity for conspiracy against the state, hidden behind the protective cover of private worship. You read, too, accounts describing the particular appeal such secretive religious movements apparently held for various segments of Roman society who felt excluded or dissatisfied with traditional Roman religious practice. Slaves and freedmen seeking spiritual community and dignity unavailable to them within official Roman religious structures. Women drawn to religious roles offering greater personal significance than the more limited options traditional practice generally provided them, and various individuals from Rome's diverse population of residents originally hailing from conquered provinces, seeking connection to religious traditions closer to their own cultural heritage than official Roman worship allowed. You find a particularly evocative account describing an official raid on one such underground gathering space, the investigating officers reportedly startled by elaborate ritual preparations they discovered, carefully arranged ceremonial objects, evidence of shared communal meals conducted according to specific ritual protocols, and wall paintings depicting scenes and symbols that none of the investigating officials could confidently interpret or explain within their own religious understanding. You think, reading these careful, sometimes clearly anxious official accounts about how genuinely diverse and complicated Roman religious life actually was beneath its official, publicly sanctioned surface. The traditional gods celebrated in public temples and official festivals represented, you begin to understand, only one visible layer of a much broader, more complicated religious landscape, with countless smaller, often deliberately hidden movements and practices operating quietly throughout the city and empire, some tolerated with quiet official indifference, others viewed with genuine alarm and periodically subjected to investigation and suppression. You find records, too, documenting periodic official crackdowns against particular religious movements considered especially threatening, participants sometimes subjected to genuinely severe punishment, their gathering spaces destroyed or sealed, their leaders exiled or executed, though such suppression campaigns rarely succeeded, according to subsequent records, in fully eliminating movements that simply relocated their activities to new hidden locations, adapting their practices to avoid whatever specific concerns had triggered the previous official investigation. You reflect, gathering these documents together as the night grows late, on the particular resilience such hidden religious movements demonstrated across generations of periodic official suspicion and suppression, their practitioners apparently finding genuine meaning and community within these secretive practices significant enough to justify the very real risks involved in maintaining them despite official disapproval. You think, too, about how completely this hidden religious landscape has been erased from the more familiar, official narrative of Roman religious life that most people, including yourself until recently, generally understand. A narrative dominated entirely by the grand public temples and official festivals, with almost no acknowledgement of the countless smaller, hidden spiritual communities that existed quietly alongside this more visible tradition, meeting secretly in underground chambers, tending flames and rituals that left almost no trace within official Roman history beyond these occasional, anxious reports documenting official efforts to investigate and suppress them. Let this quiet reflection on hidden faith and forgotten devotion settle over you now, as countless underground chambers rest silently beneath the sleeping city, their painted walls and abandoned ritual objects holding within their darkness the memory of spiritual communities whose names and specific beliefs have mostly been lost to history's careful, official forgetting. 7. The spy network of the empire. You turn your attention, on this next evening of careful reading, toward records concerning the empire's vast territorial reach. Curious now about how Roman authorities managed to maintain awareness and control across provinces stretching many thousands of miles from the capital, given how slowly official messages could travel even along the empire's famously efficient road network. You find, tucked within administrative records, rarely consulted by ordinary archive researchers, evidence of an extensive, carefully organized system of information gathering that operated alongside Rome's more visible military and administrative structures. A network of individuals whose actual function, described only obliquely in official records, appears to have involved gathering and relaying sensitive information regarding provincial governance, military readiness, and potential threats to imperial stability. You read a particularly revealing administrative memo discussing payment arrangements for what the document carefully describes only as special couriers, their compensation notably higher than ordinary postal messengers, suggesting responsibilities considerably more sensitive and demanding than simple message delivery. You find additional records suggesting these individuals operated throughout the empire's furthest provinces, gathering information regarding local political sentiment, potential rebellion, and the loyalty or disloyalty of provincial governors and military commanders whose distance from Rome itself created genuine opportunity for independent, potentially dangerous ambition. You think about the particular vulnerability Roman central authority faced given the empire's enormous geographic scale. Provincial governors and military commanders often operating with considerable practical independence simply due to the genuine difficulty of maintaining close, constant oversight across such vast distances. You begin to understand, reading these careful administrative records, why Roman authorities apparently found it necessary to develop this hidden information gathering system, providing central authorities with independent verification regarding provincial loyalty and conditions beyond whatever official reports provincial administrators themselves chose to submit. You find records describing specific instances where this hidden network apparently provided crucial early warning regarding developing provincial unrest or military disloyalty, allowing central authorities to respond preemptively before local situations could escalate into full rebellion. One particularly detailed account describes how information gathered through this hidden network allegedly exposed a provincial governor's secret negotiations with local tribal leaders, negotiations that central authorities interpreted as evidence of potential treasonous ambition, resulting in the governor's swift recall and subsequent trial based substantially on evidence gathered through channels, never explicitly acknowledged within the official proceedings against him. You think about the particular moral complexity such hidden surveillance created within Roman provincial administration, a system that provided genuine security value to imperial stability, while simultaneously creating an atmosphere of hidden suspicion and potential betrayal that must have affected relationships between provincial officials who could never fully know whether trusted colleagues or subordinates might be quietly reporting their private conversations and decisions back to interested parties in Rome. You find, too, evidence suggesting this information-gathering network extended beyond simple political and military intelligence, apparently also monitoring economic conditions, trade patterns, and potential threats along the empire's frontier regions, providing central authorities with the kind of comprehensive, independently verified information that allowed Roman administration to respond more effectively to developing challenges than officials relying solely on official provincial reports might otherwise manage. You read, with particular interest, a fragment describing the recruitment and training of individuals for this sensitive work, emphasizing qualities including careful discretion, reliable loyalty to central authority over any local attachment they might develop during their assignments, and sufficient personal courage to operate effectively within potentially dangerous frontier regions far from any immediate support or protection should their true purpose become known to local authorities they were secretly monitoring. You reflect, gathering these documents thoughtfully as the evening grows late, on how thoroughly this hidden intelligence network complicates the more familiar historical narrative, emphasizing Rome's efficient administrative and military systems as the primary foundation of its remarkable territorial stability. This hidden network of careful, quiet information gathering, you begin to understand, provided an essential additional layer of security and control, operating invisibly alongside Rome's more visible achievements, its individual agents and their specific activities almost entirely erased from the historical record, precisely because their effectiveness depended so completely on remaining unknown and unacknowledged. Let this quiet reflection on hidden vigilance settle over you now, as countless unnamed individuals once moved carefully through the empire's furthest reaches, watching and listening on behalf of authorities who valued their service precisely because history, by design, would never remember their names or their careful, essential work. 8. Curses buried in lead. You find yourself drawn, on this next evening, toward a particularly unusual category of historical record. Small, folded sheets of lead, inscribed with careful writing, that Roman archaeologists and officials over the centuries occasionally recovered from wells, springs, graves, and other locations considered to hold particular spiritual significance within Roman folk belief. You learn, reading accompanying scholarly notes attached to these unusual artifacts, that these lead tablets represent what researchers call curse tablets, personal appeals to various gods and spirits, inscribed by ordinary Romans seeking supernatural assistance in matters ranging from romantic rivalry to business disputes to outright criminal accusation, their private, deeply personal contents offering a startlingly intimate glimpse into ordinary Roman anxieties and grievances rarely visible within more official historical records. You read translations of several such tablets, each offering its own small, vivid window into individual human concern. One tablet, apparently written by someone convinced a rival had stolen valuable property, calls upon underworld spirits to afflict the suspected thief with illness and misfortune until the stolen goods are properly returned. Another, written in a notably different tone, appeals for supernatural assistance in a romantic matter, requesting that a specific named individual be prevented from finding happiness with anyone other than the tablet's anonymous author. You find these documents strangely moving in their raw, unguarded emotional honesty, so different from the careful, formal language characterizing most official Roman records you have encountered throughout your research. These curse tablets, you realize, represent something genuinely unusual within the broader historical record. direct testimony from ordinary Romans, often people who would otherwise leave no trace whatsoever within official history, expressing their private fears, grievances, and desires with a startling, unfiltered honesty rarely found elsewhere. You read, with particular interest, several tablets apparently connected to gladiatorial competitions, their authors calling upon various spirits to bind and weaken specific named opponents, ensuring victory for whichever fighter or chariot team the tablet's author personally favored. You think about the genuine desperation such tablets suggest. Ordinary Romans apparently willing to invest real effort and expense in these careful supernatural appeals, seeking whatever advantage they could secure for outcomes that, in most other respects, remained entirely beyond their personal control or influence. You find, too, several tablets connected to legal disputes, their authors requesting supernatural assistance in swaying the judgment of whatever official might be deciding a particular case, revealing a genuine anxiety regarding the fairness and predictability of Roman legal proceedings that stands in interesting tension with the more idealized picture of Roman law generally presented with an official. Historical accounts celebrating Roman legal achievement. You think, reading through this careful collection of translated tablets, about how these private, deeply personal appeals complicate any simple, unified narrative regarding Roman religious belief and practice. Alongside the grand public temples and official state religious ceremonies celebrated so prominently throughout Roman history, ordinary individuals apparently maintained this entirely separate, more intimate religious practice, appealing directly and personally to various spirits and underworld powers for assistance with concerns too private or too desperate to address through official religious channels. You find one particular tablet especially haunting in its careful, specific detail. An appeal apparently written by someone convinced a specific named individual had caused the death of a beloved family member through poison or other hidden malice, calling upon underworld spirits to ensure this suspected killer suffers illness, misfortune, and eventual death as appropriate punishment for their suspected crime. You think about the genuine grief and desperate desire for justice this careful, angry inscription suggests, written by someone who apparently possessed no other recourse for addressing what they believed to be a genuine, unpunished crime against their own family. You reflect, gathering your notes together as the evening grows late, on how thoroughly these small, humble lead tablets illuminate an entire dimension of ordinary Roman emotional and spiritual life, almost completely absent from more official historical records. Here, in these careful, sometimes desperate private inscriptions, you glimpse something the grand public monuments and official histories never directly reveal: the genuine fears, grievances, and hopes of countless ordinary Romans whose names history would otherwise have entirely forgotten, preserved now only through these strange, folded sheets of lead, buried deliberately in locations believed to carry particular spiritual power, waiting patiently across so many centuries for eventual rediscovery. Let this quiet reflection on hidden human longing settle over you now, as countless small folded tablets rest still in wells and springs and forgotten graves throughout the ancient Roman world, each one carrying forward, across so many centuries of silence, the genuine private voice of an ordinary person whose fears and hopes, however small they might have seemed within the grand sweep of Roman history, mattered profoundly to the person who once carefully, desperately inscribed them. 9. The Emperor's Food Taster. You turn your attention, on this next evening, toward the particular anxieties surrounding imperial safety, curious now about the elaborate, carefully hidden precautions that Roman emperors apparently maintained throughout their reigns, given the genuine, ever-present danger of assassination that shadowed imperial power across so many generations of Roman history. You find, within a set of palace administrative records rarely consulted by general researchers, detailed accounts describing the elaborate systems various emperors developed specifically to protect themselves against poisoning, a danger considered serious enough to warrant genuinely sophisticated, carefully organized countermeasures extending well beyond the simple food tasting arrangements you had previously assumed represented the primary imperial protection against such threats. You read a detailed account describing the careful selection and training process for imperial food tasters. Individuals chosen not merely for their willingness to risk their own lives testing the emperor's food and drink, but for specialized knowledge regarding poison detection, trained to recognize subtle changes in taste, smell, or appearance that might indicate contamination. Their expertise developed through careful, ongoing study under physicians specifically employed for this sensitive purpose. You find, too, records describing the elaborate security measures surrounding imperial kitchens themselves, ingredients sourced only from carefully verified, trusted suppliers, kitchen staff subjected to careful background investigation and ongoing monitoring, access to food preparation areas restricted to a carefully limited number of individuals whose loyalty had been extensively verified through whatever means the imperial security apparatus considered appropriate. You read a particularly detailed account describing one emperor's especially elaborate precautions, apparently prompted by a genuine, documented poisoning attempt earlier in his reign, including the maintenance of a private garden supplying certain foods considered impossible to safely obtain from external sources, cultivated specifically for imperial consumption under constant guard and supervision, and an elaborate system of rotating meal preparation locations, ensuring that no potential poisoner could reliably predict exactly where or when a particular meal might be prepared. You think about the genuine psychological burden such constant vigilance must have created for emperors who, despite commanding vast wealth and power extending across the known world, apparently could never fully relax their guard, even regarding something as basic and universal as eating a meal. You find this particular vulnerability strangely poignant, offering a very different picture of imperial life than the grand public ceremonies and monumental architecture more typically associated with Roman emperors within popular historical imagination. You find, too, records describing similar precautions extending beyond food and drink to other potential assassination methods, including careful physical security surrounding imperial sleeping quarters, trusted guards positioned according to elaborate rotation schedules designed specifically to prevent any single guard from developing detailed enough knowledge of imperial routine to plan a successful assassination attempt, and careful screening procedures for anyone granted personal access to the emperor, regardless of their apparent social status or claimed official business. You read, with particular interest, an account describing the psychological toll such constant vigilance apparently took on one particular emperor later in his reign. Palace physicians noting increasing signs of genuine paranoia and anxiety that some historical accounts attribute partly to simple personal instability, but which these more detailed internal records suggest may have been, at least partially, a reasonable response to the genuine, well-documented dangers surrounding imperial power throughout so much of Roman history. You think about how differently this careful documentation portrays imperial life compared to more familiar historical narratives emphasizing imperial luxury, power, and grandeur. These records reveal a considerably more anxious, carefully guarded existence. Emperors apparently living in genuine, constant awareness that their own household staff, trusted advisors, or even family members might, given sufficient motive and opportunity, attempt